Well, now you can probably click your camera. You had to give permission.
Yeah, we're just waiting for a couple folks, but I think we're pretty close to getting ready to go. 1 minute. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome again. Thank you very much for being here, for participating, for help us to deliver our modules to people who care about the field and want to give us good feedback, and for the comments that we hope to receive from you. This is an introduction to the first of the 4 content modules that are part of the grant work that we have been doing for the Rehabilitation Services Administration in the area of counselor credentials for over 4 years now. And actually the research on this started a couple years before that. So we're pleased to finally get to the point where we're actually coming up with products based on the what we think is kind of innovative research looking at outcome-based measures. So this is the whoops. This is the crisis one. Why does it say career development?
My fault. I grabbed the wrong one.
Okay.
Let me grab the right one.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was slightly confused by that, but I didn't want to interrupt anything.
Thank you, Abigail. Leave it to the master students to
That's completely my fault.
fix it for us.
I
Okay.
That's
Let's get the
my
right
fault.
head and then we can get going. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It's the unit on crisis and trauma counseling. And we just real brief, because I'm not going to keep you too long so that you can actually get into the modules after I introduce them. But the research that I was talking about, the research that looked at outcomes, what does it really take to get a person with a disability a competitive job, competitive integrated job? And there were 4 areas when we looked at 25,000 cases in 4 states. When we looked at the outcome-based objective data on what it takes to get a quality job for somebody in a competitive environment, there were 4 significant areas that we discovered. And the one that you're going to be looking at today is crisis and trauma counseling and intervention. And for those of us that have been around a while in the field, this would not be one of the more traditional areas that we had a couple decades ago in terms of training, but it turns out that this is a statistically significant area for training for current and future vocational rehabilitationists. So let's see what you're going to see in this unit, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we go. The grant itself is finding innovative rehabilitation services training modules. That's what FIRST means. And the objectives of the whole program over the 5, hopefully 6 years that we are going to be doing this are to address interventional competencies for qualified VR counselors, to reduce the knowledge gap by creating innovative, data-driven, effective, evidence-based modules that can be used by VR counselors to share with the whole world, themselves, their colleagues, anybody that cares about this. This is all in the public domain. So family members, students, educators, job coaches, employers, other professionals, this is in the public domain. We're not making any money off of it. It's your tax dollar at work. It will be archived. It'll be available. These are things for you to use and to grow with and to expand your own knowledge base in the area. the first of 4 of the significant content areas that came up. This is self-administered training. So once we lead you to it, you can go back and do it over and over again if you want, or as I said, pass it on. And we are in the review and feedback process. So part of what you're going to do after I talk for very few minutes about this is to go ahead and take the module and give us the feedback. We don't care how you do on it. That's not the purpose at this point. It's for you to tell us this was wonderful, or this was okay, or you need to fix this here, or something didn't make sense, like thank you, Abigail, for telling us that we had the wrong title on. Things like that are really, really important for us at this point. And to get your CRC, continuing education units, you need to fill out the evaluation connected to the module, and then magically it will appear on your screen and you can print it off. So we will have done what is needed at this point in the process. As I've said earlier, this really is a partnership thing that we're working on between vocational rehabilitation and innovative research. We really want to use outcome-based research, not just we think this is how it is, or people feel good when they learn this. We want to know that what we're training our students in terms of them being future rehab counselors, or improving their skills as current counselors, or transferring it to other counseling situations. We want to make sure that this is really based on data, that it isn't just, we think you ought to learn this and makes you feel better. We want to make sure that this is what's going to get you from here to there. This is what's going to help the client to actually get a competitive integrated job. And so that's the real focus here. And to do that, we truly believe, based on the research, that you need to understand crisis and trauma in a general sense. You need to understand how people with disabilities may experience and manage trauma and crisis. You need to identify signs of crisis and trauma exposure and symptoms. You need to be the one to say, ooh, this is an area that needs to be worked on so that this person with a disability can more successfully manage the activities that are necessary to get themselves a competitive integrated job. You need to be able to employ basic interventions to help these clients cope with crisis and trauma. And you need to create a crisis and trauma informed therapeutic environment. Now, do you have to be the counselor that delivers that? Not necessarily, but you have to be the one to know that there's a problem in the first place, if there is one. Not every client's going to have a problem, but many of them will. And especially that this is one of the issues that perhaps is keeping them from really moving forward in their goal for competitive employment. And so that's kind of what this is about. Not that you have to be the expert in this or any of the 4 areas. You have to know enough to refer. You have to know enough to make a difference. You have to know enough to say, this is an area that needs work on. And that's really what we're after here, is that ability to at least sort out the critical issues. And then educate yourself in the things that you don't know. Okay, so this unit is going to emphasize responding to and intervening with clients' crisis-ridden experiences, if they have them. As I said, not everybody does, but for those that do, this is a significant barrier. To explore the importance of resilience and healing in a trauma-informed rehabilitation approach. To discuss ways to intervene with clients who have experienced crisis-related events or circumstances. That's kind of what it's about. The demographics of clients with disabilities in this area is that we're really looking at an intersectionality of crisis and trauma with also the disability itself. Although sometimes the crisis and trauma can be the cause of the disability, that could be very self-evident, but also with race and gender and nationality and the various subsystems with which the client interacts on a regular basis. And we want to see these as objective conditions versus subjective influences. We want to identify that this is not in somebody's head. that this is something that has really happened to them that has now become a barrier to the best work at getting competitive employment. So a definition: trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event, like an accident or rape or a natural disaster. Immediately after the event, shock and denial are typical. Longer-term reactions include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, and even physical symptoms, headache, nausea, etc. But for somebody who has a physical disability and is already experiencing physical symptoms, these could be add-ons or complications or things that get in the way of true recovery in terms of the vocational path forward. Crisis is the sudden change in the condition of a patient occurring during the course of an illness or decisive turning point between recovery and continued illness or death. Clinically, it's an acute episode of symptoms, especially when recurring as an exacerbation of a chronic disease. And it is a situation that creates a level of significant challenge and difficulty for a person to overcome by reason of inadequate resources or capability, and in turn, the situation poses an imminent or perceived threat of harm. So, and I think this is really important. It's either real harm that's happening right there, or it's perceived harm based on the experiences and the situation that the client has had. While these feelings are normal, some people have difficulty moving on with their lives. Counselors help them and find constructive ways of managing their emotions. So that's where you come in. Whether you're the direct manager or a referral to another counselor, a psychologist, a social worker, or some other therapist, you're the one that needs to figure it out and either provide the therapeutic intervention yourself or know who to refer this client to. So, origins of trauma, lots of them out there. It's kind of almost like, if you think about it, living is traumatic. Institutionally engendered or systemic induced trauma. This is something relevant to a lot of our clients. They before we see them, may have been through a whole lot. A foster care situation, adoption, something that happened to them before we ever get to see them that has already created the basis for the trauma or made a traumatic situation that they've actually experienced. Sometimes physical abuse and negligence, whether that's intentional or unintentional. And again, that isn't something that happens in front of you in the office. That's something that they come in with and have experienced. And bullying in various forms. So these are all legitimate sources of trauma that could apply, or more than one could apply, to the same client that you're dealing with. Origins of crisis, developmental things that happen during birth, even during gestation, early in one's life, before you reach the age of 22, etc. Developmental crises that happen, accidents, etc. Of course, that's really situational, but things that happen in that developmental stage, which could be situational, like an automobile accident. It could be the cause of the disability itself. I mean, the cause of the origin of the crisis could be what's bringing the person forward with the disability. Existential crises, age of realization, life turning points, changes in circumstances, relationships, midlife crisis for our more mature clients, etc., or natural disasters that stem from the ecosystem. And we certainly know that there have been several of those in the United States lately, and even some within the last couple of weeks from the Arctic blast, where nature is kind of out to get us and out there to create a crisis. And so added on to the things that are normally weighing our clients down, these crisis situations can just be the tipping point that keeps them from the progress that we want them to be making. So basic interventions, these are something we all need to be able to do. Recognize the warning signs. Understand the questions that need to be asked. You know, what was the triggering event? If someone comes in distress, how do I validate that distress and yet not tell them that that's going to be a barrier to our progress together? Specific trauma and crisis questions, this will be addressed in the module, and the details of the situation. And for many clients, the recounting of the crisis itself or the trauma is a very comforting thing, to be able to tell somebody else exactly why they're distressed and what's going on and what they're feeling. And that's where your counseling skills will definitely come in. The types of trauma questions, and this again will be expanded on in the module you're about to take, will be open-ended, directed, intermediate, and closed-ended direct questions, and also questions you shouldn't be asking, things that will turn the client off as opposed to bring them into a more healing situation. And also role-playing will be addressed in the module. So I don't want to keep you from the module itself. I've kept you 20 minutes out of our hour already. This is the module link, and this is the feedback link. They are both also in the chat, I believe.
Yeah, Kai, Kai, can you please, our research assistant, can you please put those links in the chat? And we'll wait till I see them. There was a couple questions in chat, so I want to get to those real quick.
Okay.
So, Dr. Fisher, it's similar to Tic Tac, correct? I'm not quite sure what that question's asking, but I'd like to give you an answer if I can. If you want to unmute yourself, or go ahead and put it in the chat.
Yes. So just the awareness of trauma. It's trauma-informed care, trauma-aware care is typically the approach, correct? It's similar, just being aware and mindful. It's highly likely any individual or colleague or coworker, the assumption is that there is trauma. So taking from that approach is kind of what you're saying, correct?
I certainly hope so. And if we're
Yeah.
not saying it clearly in the model, make your
Yeah.
comments so that we can clean this up and make it exactly as it should be. That's what we're looking for right now, is not how well you do on the model, because I'm sure most of you are going to be able to do very well on this, but on the module itself, should you want to be taking it and getting a score, we're interested in that kind of feedback, making sure we're using the correct language and the correct approach to this so that we get a good product.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. This is all based on data research too. These are VR counselors giving us feedback when we're talking about these subjects. So that could play an impact on how we present, which is, as Dr. Geis said, is a good way to give us feedback to make sure that we are kind of, making that module impactful, innovative for that counselor that maybe didn't have a strong educational background in that counseling area. And we're trying to narrow that gap. That's the goals of these modules that are coming out. So,
and let me share with you the states that participated were Florida, Connecticut, Idaho, and Utah. So if you're from one of those 4 states, we want to thank you so much, whether it was you or your colleagues that gave us the data. If you're from other states, we would love to expand the study into your states also. So think about how you can help us connect to a even broader base, although we're very comfortable with the 25,000 cases, but it's always good to add to the pool.
Thank you. New Jersey. So I didn't hear New Jersey. So
No.
go
Not
Jersey.
Yet. Not yet, but
that's just my experience, with voc rehab and job coaching and working in psychiatric care and homelessness. Some of the agencies I've worked for, they train you in tic-tac, and some do, and then some don't. And then when I ask about it, others aren't aware of what that is. So it's just, I guess, the language and, trying to use all the same language. So that's just what that's what I know. The trauma is to just take the approach that chances are very high and very likely everyone has trauma. Therefore, if you're always looking through that lens, then you're not likely to kind of overlook that huge component. So that's just what I was
Absolutely.
asking.
That
We'll
is
just call
really
it something different.
correct. That's exactly where we're going with this. And just to,
Okay.
to let you know, the ones that are coming up after this are
Okay,
career
so can I interrupt
development.
you? Hey, can I interrupt you really quick? So the beginning of this was like the beginning of like a preview of a movie. You saw the next module, which I'm working on right now. So please, Dr. Geist, I'm giving you a chance to collect that paper
Yeah.
and pull that together. And yes, let's tell everybody the modules that are coming up.
Uh-huh. After this, the next one is career development and job placement.
Which I'm
Med-
working on.
medical and psychosocial aspects of chronic illness and disability. And then healthcare and disability management. And if you missed the first one, our bridge model, which is a PREETS model, again, you will have a chance to go back and do the webcast on that, which is not live like we are now, but we'll at least walk you through the preview and then link you to the evaluation. Okay, so I don't want to belabor this because we'd like you to have the full hour to finish things off. Are there any other questions?
I would just like to make sure everyone's got an opportunity to open that open up the module and open up the evaluation before we hang up the line.
Okay.
So if that is something that everyone can do for me, and if there's a problem, please reach out in the chat or just open up your mic and we can go ahead and make sure that we get those open. We just want to make sure that everyone's able to access. Thank you, Dr. Edwin. I just got one yes back, so I'm appreciative. I see Fisher, yes. I see Dr. Maya. Did I say it right? I'm brutal with names sometimes, I hope.
Moya.
Moya.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Dr. Penny, Dr. Munoz, got it. Great. Yeah, so the webcast will be just rebroadcast of these webinars, but there will be a different CEU attached to it. But it will be the same evaluation. So this is something that you would like to share with your colleagues. New Jersey, we would definitely like to have more input. The voices are great. And I was going to add to the Tic Tac, that's a good resource for us to put in the module at the end. Again, this is a good way that we can provide more information. The more information we can provide in these things, the better. And that would be, I'm going to look into that. Wrote my note that we can go ahead and put that resource at the end of the module with the other references to say, hey, this is another resource for you to look at. Okay, Ms. Marmay, you're on the phone. We'll make sure that you get out. We'll send those links to you. I'll have Dr. G do that for you.
Okay. I just want to tell you, I absolutely loved this module when I did it. I learned so much. So I think you're going to enjoy it, but it can always be better. So we're looking forward to that feedback.
Well, I don't hear anybody telling me that they can't get on. We want to give you a good half an hour because that's pretty much what it's going to take you, about 20 minutes for the module itself, about 10 minutes for the eval. So
yeah. And another comment, these are not to be the be all and end all on crisis. This is to just let you know what you know and what you don't know. The idea behind the module is after you take it, when you're taking it for real, not what you're doing today, is that you go, okay, I need to get a course in this. I need to get a book on this. I need to talk to my supervisor and set up something for the staff on this because we all are dealing with it. It's to tell you, to give you a reference point for what you know and what you don't know and how much you need to learn to be able to be competent in these areas. Because as I mentioned earlier, this is a whole course in itself, not something you do just in 20 minutes. So it's to clarify for you where you are at this point in time and direct you to places to go in the future on it. So thank you all very much for your time. Enjoy the actual exposure to the module, and we're very excited about getting your feedback, and your payoff is your CRC credit. Thank you so much.
I want to thank everyone for joining us. I threw that in chat. Please feel free to reach out if you weren't able to get into the module or have problems with the eval. Please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Briscoe. Dr. Briscoe, are you still having challenges getting into the module? Catherine, are you still not able to log in? Please unmute.